Three, two, one. And we're back. We're back with another fascinating, insight-filled episode starring myself and David Bishop. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you. It's been busy. I know you've been busy. Haven't had as much opportunity to connect as much as we have had in the past. So I'm looking forward to picking your brain and maybe conversing on a few other topics, not specific to the research that you do. But yeah, let's get into it. So let's talk about the October numbers. And I appreciate you sharing the early preview of the research deck. I glanced through it. I did not go into a deep dive because I know you're still tweaking it. But it looks like October 2023 is a month of ups.
Yeah,
I see large swings to the positive.
yeah. I mean, some surprising, some not
Yeah.
surprising, but this continues to be obviously a roller coaster ride
Mm-hmm.
as you look at it. But I think having some of the context helps maybe put that in perspective as to why are we seeing what we're seeing. And again, some of it may be speculation. Others may be based on some anecdotal data
Mm-hmm.
or observations, or even personal observations for a matter. But yeah, it was a positive month overall, and we can talk about those things. I think I flagged three or so kind of key observations
So
I had from this month.
okay, so let's not keep the audiences in suspense. What's number one? What's the number one takeaway that you have from October?
We said there's a lot of positives. Top line is positive,
Yeah.
meaning it grew. It was up 5% year over year. And that was driven primarily by delivery and secondarily by pickup. At the same time, we continue to see that slow and steady retrenchment of ship to home. Whether you want to call it a retrenchment or decline, it was down. So, that's the top line, up 5%, driven by delivery
Okay.
and
So
secondarily by pickup.
okay. So before we get into number two. So what's up with delivery? I mean, I thought we had seen a consistent decline. Inflationary pressure. Inflation on the delivery
Yeah.
front, and the preference for pickup because the cost to serve is lower and it's more consumer friendly. What's your thinking there?
Well, we'll touch on the preference thing under my second general
Ah,
observation.
okay.
But I think stepping back, and I was even thinking about it this morning, Mark. Delivery is behaving in a way similar to any emerging product or service would, which
Hmm.
is distribution drives a significant portion of growth. In this
Yep.
case, the distribution we would define under our first A in our 3A framework, which is availability. And what I mean by that is delivery continues to become more available, meaning that customers have more places and ways and use cases by which they can use delivery. And a very concrete example would be, the continued growth of third-party marketplaces that are newer to the industry, that
Hmm.
are gaining more traction with those retailers, whether that be DoorDash or Uber or even Amazon for that matter.
Hmm.
And that is making it easier for people to find and buy those retailers. I think the second piece ties into our second A of our growth framework, which is attractiveness. And attractiveness is a kind of a transitory feature in some ways. Right now, it could be influenced by an uptick in influenza. It could be also due to we had a little bit of a resurgence of COVID in September and early October. Those respiratory illnesses could all of a sudden make using delivery more attractive as a way to again mitigate concerns about catching a
Well,
respiratory illness like those.
I did see that the age group that drove the growth was over 60.
Right. So the third A in our growth framework, Mark, is acceptability, and that's where we get into is it good enough? Is it better than the alternative? And this is
Hmm.
where cost considerations play. I'm not touching that third A right now because you can overrun the acceptability in the short term with the attractiveness, meaning someone's willing to pay that premium for using the service because they're concerned for getting a respiratory illness is heightened. And you're absolutely right. We saw the growth in year over year users in the oldest segment, the over 60, really dramatically went up, while we actually had a decrease in the younger and the youngest segments. So again, it seems to support that hypothesis. So that would be our interpretation and context for explaining what we're seeing. But again, I won't touch too much on the user base because that goes into the second point.
Okay. So let's get into the second point. What's the second takeaway?
So, let me start with the user base. So we had delivery growing over 10%, while pickup grew more modestly, around 2%. But I want to make it clear, it's not because delivery attracted a lot of new users, net new users, because they were up less than 2% on their expansion of their monthly active user base, whereas pickup grew over 6%. So, more households on a relative basis elected to use a pickup service during the month than delivery. But we also keep in mind that pickup has a larger absolute base of customers. So that relative percentage is going to translate to a higher incremental number of users on an absolute basis too. So if it's not so much the households and more households using delivery during the month, what is it? And what we can see in the numbers is it is largely, predominantly driven by a higher average order value. Now, at the top line, average order values can be a little more complex to explain because it's not all driven by people spending more per order, although that's what you would assume. It could be affected in part by shifts in the mix across retail formats, right? That could play at that. But also the fact that they had a lower expansion of their monthly active user would support that they would have a much stronger AOV growth rate than pickup, because the more you add new customers to the base, the more that dilutes the AOV, simply because new users spend less than more familiar or established ones.
Yeah, and that's actually I want to talk about that a little later on. So number 3, what's the third takeaway?
Well, number 3 goes to mass, and when we say mass, we really are going to be talking about Walmart, and we do track Walmart separately. However, we don't really like to focus on particular banners, or brands for that matter, when we're doing this analysis. But with that being said, is you just can't not ignore the position that Walmart and the mass channel have today in absolutely attracting more users month over month compared to a year ago. We had another blowout month in the high 20% growth rate.
Wow.
For the number of new users entering the mass channel. And again, the majority of those are going into Walmart. So you could imagine if we were to report or talk about that, the growth rate for Walmart this month would be even higher than that, probably in the mid 20s. Okay. And that's really impressive. One of the things I looked at was, how does that square with their penetration rate amongst all monthly active users? So again, when we look at the overall monthly active users, that counts all households that made at least one purchase during the month and received it any one of the 3 ways, whether that was delivery, pickup, or ship to home. And last year, when we looked at the monthly active users that mass as a format or a channel accounted for, that represented roughly 40% of the overall monthly active user base. This year, it's over 50%. It's like 51%. So a 10-point jump between last year and this year. And it didn't just happen this month, by the way, because each month in the preceding months, we've been talking about this, 20+% monthly active user rate growth that the mass channel was having. And that's primarily Walmart, driven by its low price position, and not only in the real world, but the low price position in the consumer's mind, right? I mean, Aldi arguably can match or beat Walmart's price, but Walmart is truly national, where Aldi has not yet reached that level of availability. So in the consumer's mind, if you are looking to stretch a buck and get more for your money, Walmart
You go to
is the
Walmart.
place that owns that in your mind and on the street. So
That's right.
that would be the third point, Mark.
And and their no fee pickup service. I mean, it also speaks to the desire for that fulfillment method.
And just for
the customer base.
clarification, I'm not an attorney, but I don't want to misrepresent anything.
Mm-hmm.
Walmart has a no fee pickup service so long as your order exceeds its purchase threshold for free, which is $35.
That's right.
So if you don't have an order over $35 and you're using pickup, there is a service charge for it.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification.
Always try to be helpful, Mark.
Let's get into this notion that this linkage between loyalty and repeat customers, because you commented on it earlier, and it's a number I want to talk about. You said one of the rewards for retaining online grocery customers is higher AOV, and this measure comparing the more established group, the 4 purchases or more, versus the first time customer. And what's interesting is I also know there's a renewed emphasis and focus on either implementing or revamping loyalty programs, rewards programs amongst the regional grocers. And I'd like to get your thoughts on this trend.
Yeah, it's huge. I think in the report, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I'm going to spitball, but I believe the advantage relative to the average order values that a more entrenched, that is a person who has placed 4 orders or more during the past 90 days, 3 months, versus the person who is making their first order during that 3-month period, I think is about 50% this year. And it's been consistently between 40 and 50% over the prior years, even in the month of October. So it does reinforce that value. Now, why does it happen? Well, a first timer, again, could be in the last 3 months and then they've used it before. So they lack the familiarity with the tool. They may not have all the past purchase history or search history that helps make it quicker to build the basket as compared to that fourth timer. They may also be coming there for a specific purpose, but they haven't really established very clearly to us, not just a transactional bond, but an emotional bond. By the fourth time, those folks are able to build that basket significantly faster compared to the first time. They appreciate the value of the service. They are now fully utilizing or benefiting from all the algorithms and AI that have been imparted into the tool. So, and they know how the process works, right? And they've kind of worked through the bugs. So by that time, they've invested their time and effort, and they appreciate what they're getting in return, and they don't see any reason why to change, because it's met the acceptability threshold that they have, which is this as good or better than the alternative, right? Whether that's shopping in store or delivery. And I have to share with you anecdotal observation I heard about Walmart, which was, Walmart executives talking to a supplier and saying, I don't know, and this is third hand, I don't know why anyone would shop in our store when they could just use pickup, because everything in the store is available for pickup at no markup, and you're not going to have a service charge, and you would save 45, 60 minutes of walking up and down all the aisles. They're absolutely correct in saying that, but this is from the inside looking out, right? But it just reinforces that if that's how good a deal they have, and still the majority of people are going into the store, it just shows you how sensory driven, how socially driven these experiences are for grocery shoppers, and why the store still remains pivotal amongst all of this that we're seeing.
Like you said, that sensory, that tactile, the experience part still drives the vast majority.
There's enough of those whammies out there. I have my daughter wants guacamole, so I want avocados, but I need fresh avocados, not ones that are going to be ripe in 3 days. It could be your bananas. There's 7 stages of ripeness. It's I want something that's ripe and ready to eat, but not so ripe that I'm going to have to make banana bread tomorrow, right? That it's all mushy. So you have those things on top of all the other things like frozen foods that you want delivered to you frozen as opposed to thawed. So again, the lowest risk, but the largest investment is still
Yeah.
shopping in the store. So when you have a retailer like Walmart, again, third hand hearsay right now, making statements like that, it is very telling that they still aren't driving as much or even more volume through that pickup. And that may be just because how strongly people are associated with in-store shopping and the value it has, no matter all the quirks and problems that come with crowded aisles, long waits at checkout, and things of that sort.
I want to touch on something I don't think we've ever really talked about, maybe once. I want to talk about the convenience store sector. And I know you have a passing familiarity with it, because one of the trends that I've been seeing and hearing about is definitely the there's no margin made on fuel. It's the assortment, the product mix in the store, and you have a renewed interest or an accelerating interest in rewards, loyalty programs to incentivize customers, consumers, to take advantage of the proximity effect of having the store in your local neighborhood. And there's I think a movement afoot to not only accelerate 1P e-com in that sector, but also to take advantage of the experiences that the grocery sector has had for a long time now. Any thoughts on the C-store sector? And I know it's part of the report, but we don't really break it out at all.
Yeah. I did have more than a passing time in convenience, Mark, more than a decade or so. So, the best in class, the top quartile retailers do make money. Most retailers do make money on fuel. It's a very low margin part of the business, but the key metric they would use is a break-even pool margin, and it's driven by using fuel as not a loss leader, because they do make money, but as a very strong pull to get cars onto the lot. And then the store, you have to have a compelling proposition within the store to convert that fuel customer to an in-store. And so the conversion rates, for that are probably in the 30%. But the real stalwarts out there who are really strengthening the business aren't relying on fuel to drive cars to the store. They're actually using, food service and other, tactics to actually drive people to the store, and then make fuel more of a convenient stop, a one-stop destination for my fuel and my food. My fuel for my car and fuel for my body, right? So that's around hot dispensed beverages, things like, hot coffee and all the sundry products there. And of course, made to order stuff. So, they're looking at this, and, most of the successful retailers understand they're in a business that focuses on frequently purchased items. Think about cigarettes and coffee. That's almost daily for the regular convenience store consumer. For immediate consumption, so immediate consumption, generally we would define a convenience as under 30 minutes. So you go in there and get a coffee and a pastry, you're going to be eating that pretty quickly and consuming that pretty quickly. Same thing with the cigarettes. And the whole experience has to be quick and easy. And what I just laid out was the framework that a convenience retailer in the Mid-Atlantic, Wawa, used to structure their strategy. It was a term called FEQI, frequent, immediate, quick, and easy. That kind of laid the foundations for how they looked at building stronger connections with their customers.
Awesome. Well, more than a passing knowledge.
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. David, anything else you want to touch on before we say goodbye for this month?
No, and I'm a little surprised you looked right past it, but I believe we set a new record high for the cross shop rate between grocery store customer and mass this month. It was over 34%, and Walmart in particular was over 23%. So we had a large jump versus a year ago. So last year would have been about 28 in total for grocery to mass. This year over 34. Again, I think that's really just illustrating the financial challenges that more households in the U.S. are encountering, and they're responding by changing where they shop and how they shop, right? But it's not all about financials. As we can see, concerns about a respiratory illness could cause you to do something contrary to the financial, because the greater weight or importance is placed on your health as opposed to finances, right? Because if you're dead, finances really don't matter, at least to the person who died, I should say. So that would be kind of the calculus there.
I wanted to save some gunpowder for you. I didn't. That's why
I appreciate the layup then.
There, you're welcome. All right, folks, that's it for this month. We look forward to next month's report and recording, and as we get nearer to the holidays in 2023. Take care, David.
All right. Thanks, Mark.